What is up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today I am talking about, well, the second part of what is supposed to be a trilogy of albums, and that is the latest offering from Green Carnation, A Dark Poem Part 2, Sanguis. This also came out on April 3rd, this time on Season of Mist Records. This is the band's 8th studio full-length overall. I checked out the last album, A Dark Poem Part 1, The Shores of Melancholia, which I thought was an awesome album right there. And then and that album came out back in September. I was not expecting to talk about this band this soon, but here we are, roughly 7 months later, talking about a new album, and I found out this is actually the second part of a trilogy that they created for A Dark Poem. So, again, for those who don't know, this is a Norwegian progressive gothic metal band. Well, they started out as more of a death metal band, namely because of one focal member in the band, and that's Chort, who was in Emperor, live with Satyricon, Carpathian Forest, Blood Red Throne, amongst many other bands in Norway. And this was one of his earliest projects he started, and this was initially a death metal band. Now it's evolved into a progressive gothic metal band. So, interesting mix. I went over the last one, part one of the Dark Poem, and like I said, thought it was a great album. Here we are with part two, and one thing that's definitely notable, this album is 5 minutes shorter than the last album. The last one was like 42 minutes and some change. Here it's 37 minutes and some change. And this album definitely has a little bit of a different mood and vibe it's going for. And it starts that way with the title track, Sanguis, which is the longest track of the album at 9 minutes plus. Bold to have your opener be your longest track, but regardless, it's got Hammond organ for days, and it brings us to like a really cool classic heavy metal gallop. Almost feels like if Deep Purple and Iron Maiden were mashed together. That's what a lot of this song really showcased, was a lot of like old school heavy metal, but also like early 70s prog and proto metal in the sense with Deep Purple. But you also do get plenty of like progressive off time rhythm shifts, and there's even some like really cool vocal harmonies on this track, soaring lead, which I will go ahead and say lead work wise, it's mostly lead melodies or like big like atmospheric leads, and in this case it just soared straight to the sky before it switches over to like big like gothic doom, very much in the vein of Paradise Lost, which there's a lot of Paradise Lost across this album, and I even think I said that about the last album, but it's apparent that Paradise Lost is like one of the big influences for this band. But I also love how towards the end it builds up, it gets into like a more moody build before it reaches the climax, and it was a hell of a journey to get this album started. And then right after that, we get the first of two softer tracks on the album, Loneliness Untold, Loneliness Unfold, which is actually the shortest song of the album at a little over 4 minutes, but it's largely this like bleak, dark, somber, sullen, clean melody and organ dirge with beautiful vocals. Like, it is just one of the prettiest songs I've heard in a little bit. But then after that, it goes right back into the heavy with the following three tracks, Sweet to the Point of Bitter, which is the first of the three, like, triple threat songs, I call them. This one has some, like, big, nasty triplet chugs, but on top of those triplet chugs, you get big, soaring lead melodies, which adds this really cool dynamic of melody, but also great heaviness. And it almost feels like something you would hear in, like, a Melodeath album, even though this isn't a Melodeath album at all. Of course, you do get some pretty cool, like, off-time rhythms with big open chords to just feel like something for the concert vibe, which is really cool. But then the mood does shift a little bit to a more darker tone, like the guitars get a little bit more sinister, so to speak. But then it goes into this, like, really cool, like, drum and bass moment where you get this like notable bass line and pretty cool drum groove. But then the track I Am Time, the first part of the song, I believe it's 7/8 time signature. It's going for that rhythm, but you still get like plenty of gorgeous guitar melodies on top, which I would say kind of adds a little bit of a Dream Theater vibe. Just a little bit, but it's all in like triplet patterns. Like you get a lot of like triplet stomps on this song, and it's really only this like 7/8 rhythm just at the beginning. The rest is like for the most part straightforward. Hell, dare I say, this song definitely made me think of Opeth quite a lot, which, again, Opeth is another good comparison point for this band. But some great synth work. There's even like this big, like soaring, dark tremolo melody, which I guess would count as kind of the lead. But then after it goes from feeling dark, it feels kind of more majestic, so to speak, at the very end when the song just, again, soars to the sky to bring it to a close before we go into the penultimate track, Fire and Ice. Clean melody to start it off, but then you go back to like the triplet chugs with big lead melodies on top, which I love that they brought that dynamic back on this track. And then it goes back into some more off-time drums, but it's got like syncopation with the bass while the organ acts as like a really cool backdrop. And the song itself is kind of bluesy to a point. Like there's some like blues sections on here that definitely would make me think of a band like Cream, for example, but just done in this style of music. There's even some pretty cool guitar harmonies, which was a pretty nice addition, and even a big synth melody. And then it brings us to the closer, the second shortest track of the album at a little over 5 minutes, Lunar Tale, which is largely piano, flutes, acoustic guitars. Dare I say, it kind of has like a bit of like a Jethro Tull, but also like Emerson, Lake and Palmer vibe. But it's got a little bit of that like gothic dreariness on top to make it stand out on its own 2 feet. Production wise, it's crisp, it's well balanced in terms of the mix. Nothing sounds like it overpowers anything too much. I will say maybe the one minor grievance I have is those guitar harmonies that show up on Fire and Ice. I wish there could have been some more guitar harmonies on the rest of the album, but that's really a nitpick I have about this album. Now, do I think this is better than part 1? I'm gonna say it's on par with part 1, which is why I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. I definitely think so far this trilogy, it's so far been back-to-back bangers, and seeing as though this is a trilogy, we still got a third part to go, and part of me wonders if the third part is going to be released late this year, which, if that's the case, whew, I'm gonna be itching for it. But if you are a fan of bands like, old Opeth, Paradise Lost, I would even throw in like In Mourning, but also like some Deep Purple, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Hell, I'll even throw in like Catatonia and dare I say even little bits of Amorphous. I say check this out. And also check out part 1 and really get an idea for the feeling of this album. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But until next time, thank you for watching, keep your horns high, and your dreams wet.